What's up, guys? Welcome to the latest episode of Out of the Shadows. This one's called Changing Your Thinking. Now, I wanted to start with a little prelude to this episode. First, like I've said so many times, in life there are times when you don't feel like doing something, or you want conditions to be perfect, or ideal, or whatever. And if you wait for things to be perfect, you're not going to do them. It's just how it is. Things are never perfect. And even things with being ideal or how they typically are ideal per se. Like this video, I wanted to go back to doing the widescreen format. I haven't done that in a while. I felt like writing notes again, as I haven't done that in a while either. My plan was to actually get ready, be showered and dressed and all that stuff. And these are the clothes I slept in. I had today off, so I slept in. This is what it is. My point being, I could have let a million things talk me out of doing this. I haven't been making as many longer videos, and I want to get back into the habit of doing that. My stuff has been more on Instagram, which please do follow me there, at Out of the Shadows Corvo, all one word, same name as the channel. But my point being, don't assume with anyone, whether it's someone on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, or even people who have a level of, shall we say, legitimate fame and have books or those sorts of things, that they're always in this perfect state of being, that they're always supremely confident, that they're always, things are their way, and that it's always perfect. The only way to get through and to make progress, deal with imperfection, do it anyway, as I say, one of my core themes, and it's what it is. So, having that out of the way, let's get on to the topic here. Now, changing your thinking. Changing your thinking, obviously, typically speaking, in the self-help world is referring to changing your thought process, how you interpret things, thinking more positively, as opposed to interpreting situations as being negative. Now that has a lot of relevancy, and I've touched on that in a lot of videos. However, this is a different approach, perhaps a little bit more philosophical. I was watching Rocky IV recently. Those of you who follow me know I love Rocky. And it's right after Apollo Creed gets killed in the ring, Rocky's best friend, and he's going to go to Russia to train and fight the Russian. And his wife is trying to talk him out of it. And she says, "Why can't you change your thinking? Everyone else does." And he says, "Because I'm a fighter." Now, in this regard, the changing of your thinking that Adrian, his wife, is referring to is to kind of give in, to follow the set pattern, to conform to what everyone else says and just accept it, because so many other people change their thinking and give up on fighting or being different or dreams or anything like that. That's kind of the negative aspect of changing your thinking to fit the status quo. And I loved the response. It's very typical of a Rocky movie, but I think in general it resonates with me when she says, "Why can't you change your thinking?" And he says, "Well, because I'm a fighter." And I very much agree with that. We have this pressure to kind of change our thought process, our thinking, like, "Oh, well, you're not going to achieve your dreams," or, "Oh, you're starting a YouTube channel? Well, there's so many other people out there, obviously, and they have so many more followers, and you're not utilizing X, Y, and Z in terms of your marketing tactics or branding or whatever." There's so many reasons as to why it might not work out, and people will feed it to you as to why it likely won't work out. So you could change your thinking and be like, "All right, they're right. This is a waste of time. People aren't going to see it. It's useless." However, if you adopt that fighter mentality, as I aspire to do and believe I have done in many ways, you disregard that. I'm unwilling to change my thinking to be part of the way that most people think. I'm not going to sit here and give up and be like, "You know what? I can't do it. People aren't going to watch my content. They're not going to care. There's so many other people out there putting out content that's probably better than mine. They have more followers. They have more views. They have more subscribers. Why am I doing this?" And I don't let myself fall into that pattern of thinking. Do I have those thoughts? Absolutely. I think all the time, like, I'll see people who have tons of followers and I'm like, "Man, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why do they have so many more followers than I do? Why is there so much more exposure?" However, in the same regard, I remind myself that I'm more concerned with the quality of my work. I'm not concerned with the number of likes and all that stuff. Yes, that's huge. And as I've said before, I want to make this kind of my livelihood and I do want to gain recognition. But my main concern is to help other people. If I can help someone who's struggled with the things that I've struggled with, then I'm doing what I've set out to do. And I'm not going to allow myself to change my thought pattern that I'm going to do this, that I'm going to keep going no matter what, that I'm going to keep going after it. It's a very difficult mindset to acquire, I think, for anyone. I think particularly for someone like myself who has struggled with depression, whereas those of you who have had that experience, depression very much convinces you that there's no hope. You're not going to get the things that you want. There's all this just, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And, that little voice that we all have is almost, 10 times more powerful if you have depression, especially clinical depression. And it's learning to tell that voice no. And as I've said in my recent Instagram video, and I actually got this tactic from Bill Burr, as simplistic as it is. He said he'd have these thoughts about how, he was a struggling comedian before he got famous, and he'd be like, maybe I'm not cut out for this, and maybe I should just go back and find a normal job. And he'd have that thought, and then immediately he would think, fuck that. And that would kind of be the cutoff to where like you'd stop that negative thought process and keep going. And as I said, it's hard to develop, but it's absolutely necessary. And, cultivating that belief in yourself is key. There are many things lately, if you've watched and you follow me, I've struggled recently with actually being a bit depressed, or being more depressed than usual. I wasn't depressed at all for a long time. And it was a struggle in that I did kind of step away from doing longer videos. I was proud of myself in the fact that I was at least doing some shorter videos periodically or consistently enough to where there was a time when if I would have gotten depressed at all, I would have done nothing. Now, with this, again, I could have easily fallen into the trap of, well, you fell off, you didn't do what you said you were going to do, you haven't been making one YouTube video a week, forget it, man, it's over. But, like anything else, there is no perfect, like I said. So you didn't meet the exact quota. Pick up the pieces and keep going. That's what it is. There's that cliche saying that, you fail 1,000 times and all you did was find 1,000 ways to not get what you want. Now, as cliche as that sounds, there is some truth in it. You're going to fail, and that's part of life. And again, I think it comes down to interpretation. Things aren't failures if they get you to where you want to be ultimately, or if you learn from them. You hit bumps in the road, you hit snags, and that's what it is. But if you keep going, if you don't let it stop you, then you haven't failed. You can't fail if you keep trying, in my opinion. Whether you're the one in the end with their hand raised or not, if you gave it your all, you didn't lose. That's truly how I feel. It's taken a long time to really take that on, not only intellectually, but emotionally. But when you can, things really start to change. And another thing I wanted to add here is, in being that I've been struggling more with depression, and there's been a lot more stressors in my personal life and in my professional life, what I started to do was, you have to balance certain things out. There are times when, you're just kind of physically beat down and you need to take a mental health day per se. It hasn't been a lot, but there are times where I've taken off work just because I don't have it in me. And maybe if I went to a doctor, they couldn't take a physical test and be like, oh, he's sick, this is why. But you need that time to recharge, and you shouldn't feel guilty about that. And that's something that that was one of the things I had to do. Another thing recently that I figured out, just kind of through my own research and practices, I watch a lot of different videos, and for those of you, again, who follow me, I do the Wim Hof breathing method every day. And I was watching a video where they were interviewing Wim recently, and the interviewer asked him, well, how often should you do this breathing technique? And, the technique is good for boosting the immune system. It has mental health benefits. There's all these benefits. And people who have been physically ill, as well as having anxiety and different things, it's really helped them. So Wim's response to how often should you do it is, he said, as often as you feel you need it. So I'd been doing it one time, and considering I was like, well, I'm having a very hard time right now and I'm still depressed and I'm still anxious, I started doing it twice a day. And that has really made a significant difference. You know, am I always operating at 100% having done the breathing technique twice a day? Not necessarily, but it has made a difference. So I think my point being, when you're having a hard time and the things that you've been doing aren't working as well per se, you have to start seeking out different things, start figuring out how to balance your stress, your life, different, aspects better, and perhaps add in additional techniques, coping mechanisms, whatever you want to call them. Point being, don't give up, and really, like I said, develop that mentality that I'm not going to change my thinking to what everyone else says. Just because someone tells me I can't do it, I don't care. That's their opinion. Immaterial. Doesn't matter. And develop and cultivate that belief that you can do it and you're going to keep going after whatever you want to go after and nothing can stop you. Again, easier said than done. However, I have made 2 videos, long enough videos, I should say, on my own personal thoughts on how to go about changing beliefs. I highly recommend checking those out. I think changing your beliefs is critical if you're trying to recover from depression or anxiety or self-esteem issues. So please check those out. I hope this episode was good. I'd love to hear from you guys in the respect that everything I've been doing has been all stream of consciousness. I take one basic premise and I pretty much just talk. I had notes in the beginning for the vast majority of the episodes up until maybe 2 months ago-ish. So, let me know, what do you think of the recent episodes? Do you prefer this style? Do you want me to go back and be a little bit more structured? Questions, comments, all is welcome. Please leave it below. Follow me on Instagram at Out of the Shadows Corvo. And until later, my friends, be well.